Hi, welcome to Evie's Acres. This is Evie. I am going to take you on a little bit of a tour of our property this morning so you can get an idea of what we're working with. Sorry for the cats in the background. They just don't know when to stop. Here's Natasha. She's the most vocal overall. And here's her sister, Nala. She's also pretty vocal, mostly in the mornings though, or when it involves food. Okay, so let's head outside. I'm gonna take care of the chickens real quick, and then we'll take a walk around the area so you can see what it's like. All right, now that that's done, let's actually walk around the property. But first, let's watch how crazy my cats are. Now, granted, they're indoor cats, so they're not used to being on the grass or anything. But it's really funny watching their responses to everything around them. Okay, so we're going to start out on the front lawn. As you can see, we have, well, it used to be a gravel driveway. Now it's mostly dirt, but we're going to get that graded. And hopefully I'll get it paved as well, leading up to the garage that we're planning to add to the property. You can see part of sort of a corner of the pasture in the front. What we're going to do is just walk down here and along the fence line. But before we do, I'd like to share with you a tractor story. Well, tractor mower. As you can see, the top of this one is damaged. That's how ours arrived. So we weren't able to do much. Not only was the top of the tractor mower ruined or damaged, also underneath the framework around the blades were also indented, which didn't allow the blades to rotate. Craziness. Anyway, here's the beginning of our fence line at the end of our driveway. We'll just walk on down here and I'll show you a bit of our property line. As you can see, there was, according to our neighbors, there used to be a gate right here. The previous residents removed it and I guess sold it before moving. I don't know. But in any case, this pasture is going to be mowed for hay. Thankfully, one of our neighbors offered to do that for us. We don't actually have any animals on the property at this time that eat hay, but that is part of our future plans. As you can also see here along our fence line, there are a number of cedar trees, which generally I don't have an issue with, but I actually am going to have them all removed because one of my goals for this property is to grow an orchard that includes apple trees. Anyone who knows me knows that apples are my favorite fruit, or among them as are pears, but I recently learned that cedar trees can actually damage apples and apple trees, causing them to have scabs. So yeah, we're going to be getting rid of those cedar trees, but that's a really nice tree back there near the barn that I really like. Anyway, here along this front fence line, along the front pasture, you can see there's just a lot of overgrowth. And I'm sure someone in the comments will probably say something along the lines of, well, why don't you just get goats? I'm sure they'd enjoy all of that brush, and you're probably right. But if you didn't notice earlier on, our fence line, it is a double fenced property, but the fence line is primarily made up of wooden posts as well as T-posts and barbed wire. So that is not enough fencing to keep goats enclosed. And given that this is the fence line along the street, I really wouldn't feel safe doing that. So I'm more than likely going to hire someone to bush hog that for me. It just seems like a better option. Anyway, again, here's one of my favorite trees on the property. And here's another tree on the left that I like it enough, but I think it needs a little work. So in any case, I'm going to fast forward this part of the recording just so that you don't get too bored staring at my fence line, and we can move forward with some other areas. Overall, the fence is in pretty good shape. Again, it's a double fenced property, and this outer perimeter, there is damage in a few areas. This is one of them where the wooden posts are deteriorating and leaning and need to be replaced. So that's also on our to-do list, among other things. And you can see that awkward tree, as well as our barn. The barn immediately behind it belongs to the neighbors that own the neighboring pasture. You might be wondering, well, if you have all of this property and you got neighbors that are willing to mow and bale your hay, why don't you have more animals yet? Well, the reality is we actually just got here. Yeah, so we moved to the property just a couple months ago and are very much in the process of reviving it, essentially, after some years of neglect. There used to be a resident here who had a couple of horses, and they were able to graze out here on the pasture. There are actually essentially two pastures on this property, and the one you've seen so far is the largest one in the front. Here's another view of that. Again, another view, and it's a corner lot, so you can see where we walked along that fence line earlier. And now we're going to pan over to our barn. As you can see, it's covered in vines and is also in need of some TLC. But yeah, we do plan on having some animals. And in fact, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I put a list of about 12 animals in the description box. Take a look at that list, and then in the comments section, let me know which of those 12 animals you think are more likely to come on to our property within the next 6 to 12 months. Just pick 3 animals and let me know which 3 of those 12 you think we're going to add to the property within the next 6 to 12 months. I'm really interested to see what your thoughts are on that. So we're just walking along, and here's one of a few areas that were just kind of left a big mess. There are a ton of logs, and I think there's a tire in there, lots of branches and garbage we'll need to just clear out. As time goes on, we're just taking our time getting things cleared up, sprucing up the property. But this is definitely one of those eyesores that I look forward to clearing up here pretty soon. And panning back over to our barn, we also walk towards another area where, again, there were some just things left on the property. Lots of wood. And actually in this area, you'll notice there's also, there's some cement blocks, bricks, random scrap metal. It's a hot mess. But, again, it's on the list of things to take care of and clean up as we go. Here's a view of our barn. And as you can see, it also is in need of some repairs. But overall, the structure is in pretty good shape. It will definitely come in handy when we're ready to house some animals, shelter some animals, particularly in the colder winter months. since we do get snow here, it's really important that we have a place where we can provide dry shelter for our animals in the future. Now, this barn is equipped with both water and electricity, though you can see here there may have been some sort of chimney there or stove. And there's a light fixture and a circular blade. Interesting. But yeah, there are a number of outlets available in this room and in other parts of the barn. Not quite sure when the barn was built. I know that our home is over 60 years old. So here's maybe some information for someone who's watching who could tell me how old this is. But yeah, again, more opportunity for cleaning up and sprucing up the area. So I'm just going to take you through a couple more sections of the barn, show you what we have here. And all right, as you can see up above, there's lots of space and quite a few birds' nests up there. We see birds flying across there all the time. Now we're just going to walk through some of the other rooms, rooms that are in the barn. You can see here the water pump, as well as the electrical we just passed. That was the lawnmower. I think this next room would actually be a great place to house some chicken brooders whenever we decide to add more baby chicks to the property. It would need to be fixed up, of course, but it gets nice sunlight, and it would be a really nice place once it's secured. Now here's a view of the back of our barn. There's our lawnmower again, and as you can see, the vines have green leaves. They're living vines. When we moved here, it was cold, it was winter, and I really thought these were just dead vines all over the barn that would be easy to remove, but they were just dormant. So yeah. All right, that's just another view of the back. I'm going to pan around. You can see the back of the house and what I kind of think of as our back driveway, but not really. I mean, it's where the tractor comes in and mows the grass. So, but yeah, here's another fence line here on the right. Again, you can see the T-posts, and you can also see wooden posts there. There's another tree, and also a tree that I realized the other day is actually growing out the side of our shed, which is very odd, but there it is. So yeah, the shed that came with the property is actually, well, you'll see when I turn around to the front of it, but it's actually really great size to remodel into a chicken coop. But right now we actually need to use it as a shed to store a lot of our stuff. We could move things into the barn, but it's just a lot more convenient to keep our rakes, shovels, weed whackers, all those types of things in this shed. It's very conveniently located in that sense. But once we have our 2-car garage added to the property, hopefully later this year, that will alleviate some of that space, and I look forward to converting that hopefully into a nice chicken coop. All right, from this view, you can see what used to be the garden area used by the prior residents, and it's very overgrown. I tried to clear some of it about a week ago, and it's just really thick with a lot of vegetation, so it's going to take a bit more time than I initially expected. There's some rotted wood in there from a raised bed that was present, which is good because that's composting in place. But there are also some, I wouldn't say oddities, just unexpected items, I guess. Pretty soon here you'll see that there's a kind of a cage that includes a group of T-posts that are all grouped together. You should be able to see that here in a moment. But my hope is that those are in good condition, because if they are, then that would be great for reusing them, repurposing them to create some archways and trellises, ways to vertically grow some of my vining plants and flowers. And yeah, that's pretty exciting to me. So I look forward to tackling that project as well in the coming days. Here are a couple of my favorite trees on the property. It's the perfect spot for a hammock. Just to the right of the trees, you can see our other pasture. It's much smaller than the one that's in front of the house, but it's still a really great size. I'm thinking of sectioning off a portion of it to be the orchard. I'm not quite sure. I haven't settled on it officially yet, but that's kind of what I have in mind. Here's sort of our back driveway, if you will. I'm going to head down to that fence line so you can get another view of the property, in particular this smaller pasture on the side of the house. I can already tell this video is probably going to be pretty long, so I think we'll limit it to talking about the exterior of the property today, and I'll focus on another video to talk about some of the different projects we want to do inside the home. A lot of those are definitely DIY type projects, some of which have already been completed. But yeah, again, here's our fence line along that side pasture. Couple of large pine trees in front of the house. And there's the house from an angle. Here's a quick walk around the exterior of the house. They're just patches that look gross or weird or, missing grass. A lot of that is from the chickens. Sorry guys, I'll get to you in a minute. From the chickens, eating the grass. Their waste, their droppings are on the grass. And that's all intentional for the purpose of really giving this grass, this area, a lot of nutrients so that we can build up a nicely sized garden. I basically want my whole backyard to be a garden and to eventually reach a point where I can put our chickens out on pasture behind some other animals. So you can also see there is actual damage to our property here. Whoops. You can actually see some damage that was done to our property. This occurred as a result of a rather nightmarish moving experience. We've already started to backfill with soil in a couple of areas. We need to add more soil once we cut the grass lower and can see what the level should be. But it was awful. It was so awful. One thing I almost forgot to show you. So this greenhouse purchased online and it is busted. It totally broke during a windstorm recently. It wasn't really a storm. We just have a lot of high winds. We've had high winds for the last couple of weeks, really. And unfortunately, this type of greenhouse is really not suited for this area. The other thing, there's a hole that's been ripped in the seam right here in the corner. And all that means is another DIY project. All right, so that's pretty much a full tour of the whole place. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, comment down below to let me know which 3 animals do you think we're going to be adding to the homestead next. All right, until next time.